Geoengineering. It's a term many people have heard in passing, but few truly understand. What does it actually mean? And why is it now tied to questions about our skies, our environment, our health, and even the rise in mysterious illness affecting millions? Geoengineering has jumped from fringe theory to state house debates. How did we get here, and what does it mean for American families? Today's guests are here to talk about all of this and more right now. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Life TV Now, where we unpack all matters of truth, faith, and freedom. I'm your host, Joe Artis Horn, and let me tell you something. Today's program, I promise, is going to absolutely boggle your mind. Let me introduce who's here. She's an integrative nutrition health coach with a Master of Science in Health Education. Please welcome my co-host, Jamie Woodall. And today's guest founded the advocacy group Missouri Clean Skies just 7 short months ago and already has a media following of 120,000 people and climbing, with videos reaching nearly 22 million views. He's also actively working on legislation for the Senate and House in the state of Missouri, as well as working at the federal level to stop geoengineering and pollution from the aviation industry. His efforts aim to build a model that can be implemented across all 50 states, driving a nationwide movement for cleaner skies. Please welcome Michael Hogan. And today's guest founded the advocacy group Missouri Clean Skies just 7 short months ago and already has a media following of 120,000 people and climbing, with videos reaching nearly 22 million views. He's also actively working on legislation for the Senate and House in the state of Missouri, as well as working at the federal level to stop geoengineering and pollution from the aviation industry. His efforts aim to build a model that can be implemented across all 50 states, driving a nationwide movement for cleaner skies. Please welcome Michael Hogan.
Follow faithandfreedom.live on Rumble for 24/7 faith and freedom content. Break free from deception 24/7. Follow us at faithandfreedom.live.
Hello, I'm Jordan, and this is my brother.
And I'm Nace, and we're with the Grid Down Chowdown. And this is Larry, who is a local rancher that we've partnered with.
Now, Larry, you've been ranching for over 4 generations, is that correct?
That's correct. I'm 3rd generation, my son's 4th generation, and I've got some grandkids that are 5th generation.
Man, that's awesome.
We've been here for quite a while, yeah.
All right, now, Larry, your cattle is grass-fed, grass-finished, and pasture-raised, just like God intended them to be.
Yes, because I want to know what's in that animal,
Right.
What it's been fed, and so the only way to do that is for us to keep it all natural, just like God has done it for years and years and years, thousands of years.
How has partnering up with us helped you and your ranch?
Well, it's allowed us to develop a market that we didn't have before, one that can get directly to the consumer, and that's great.
And just remember, more importantly, with every package that you buy, we put a salvation track in there. So from the bottom of our hearts, we thank you for allowing us to do what we believe that God has us here to do. And just remember, God loves you. He really does.
Amen.
Michael, our family loves you and your wife, and I'm going to say this right here at the onset. You are a personal hero to me with what you're doing, not just here in the state of Missouri to help clean up the skies, but bring the conversation of geoengineering to public view across all 50 states by saying, look at what we're doing. This is a model that can be duplicated everywhere. But before we dig into how that all came about, when did you become first aware of this word geoengineering? What is it, and what got you started?
Yeah, so about a year and a half ago, I began to really notice. I was working outside on my back porch on our property, and I noticed that, in the morning I would see one trail, and then I'd see another. I'm talking about trails from the plains, right? And I would see some like what they used to call contrails, okay? And these things would turn into clouds, and one would go, the next one, and by noon, the whole sky was completely covered. And this wasn't happening one day, it was multiple days.
Right.
And I kind of like the sunlight. I really, really love sunlight. I love being outdoors.
Yes.
And I just started to wonder, what is going on? There's so many things since 2020 that we've really had to open our eyes to.
Yeah.
And, things are not what they seem. And so, we are a little bit suspicious perhaps now than we used to be about things, and rightly so. And so I began to do some research on this and found a lot of things. I mean, anytime you Google something, and you're going to find lots of things, good and bad, right?
Sure. Oh, and tons of propaganda, too.
I'd never heard of the word geoengineering at that point in time. Obviously, weather modification has been something that's been going on since forever. But that's the other thing, is that our weather patterns, like, we've noticed that, they want to blame climate change, they as in the globalists, and they want to blame climate change on, the fact that our weather is being changed, and the severe storms that we're having, baseball-sized hail is normal these days, things like that.
Oh, yeah.
And I just can't accept that, because I don't subscribe to that theory that climate is changing in the way that they want us to believe. And so that got me really started, and I became extremely passionate about it. I remember looking to my wife and saying, I'm going to do something about this. And this was about, a few months later. And I'm going to stop this in the state of Missouri.
Wow.
And she was kind of like, okay. And as of today, the legislation that I've co-written has been introduced in the House and in the Senate.
That's amazing.
Incredible.
A lot of people, especially watching this program for the first time, they may have had the similar experience where they're sitting outside and this just can't be right.
Yeah.
You're watching these airplanes, these long trails of what? Space dust. I mean, people, what even is this? Then they go online and they start reading about, cloud seeding conspiracies and words like geoengineering.
Yeah.
Maybe they feel overwhelmed or even skeptical. Even now as they're watching the show, okay, this guy's very passionate about whatever this geoengineering thing is, but what about the receipts?
Yeah.
And they're going to be completely misdirected if they go online and start doing a standard Google search.
Sure.
There's going to be all kinds of stuff designed specifically. It becomes almost an indecipherable web of just chaos and confusion.
Yeah.
Can you tell us, based on your research, what it is, what it isn't, and to the average family that's just trying to wrap their head around what this is? I mean, why are we working to ban this in Missouri if it's nothing, right?
Yeah, and that's even going to legislators. It's a topic that they're confused about. And it is a confusing and very complicated topic. So we'll start with, and there's a lot of layers to this. We'll start with just the word geoengineering. What is geoengineering? And by definition, and this was coined back in 1977 by Italian physicist Cesare Marichetti, and it's basically the large-scale manipulation of the Earth's environment to counteract the effects of climate change. So it's literally connected to the word climate change.
Wow.
So that's the definition of it. And so there's geoengineering, and when you say the word geoengineering, it means something. It means solar radiation modification, basically. And what does that mean? It basically means that we're going to manage how much solar radiation we get on Earth. In other words, they're going to block out our sun. That's exactly what they mean by that. Now, how are they going to do it? And so the forms of doing it is basically it's called stratospheric aerosol injections, where they literally inject aerosols of metals, toxins, into our pollutants, into our stratosphere, to reflect sunlight back in the outer space. This is no joke. I mean, they have their hands on our thermostat, and they want to manage that. And so there's another form. So there's three forms. So stratospheric aerosol injections, there's marine cloud brightening, and then there's cirrus cloud thinning. And so those three are solar radiation modification under the term geoengineering. Now, you mentioned something about cloud seeding. That's not technically called geoengineering, but what it is weather modification. And so when we introduce our bills in the House and the Senate, we include both. We say we're trying to stop geoengineering, all of the things I just mentioned, but also weather modification, because there's other forms of weather modification for different purposes. For example, cloud seeding has been going on for decades and decades, right? And it's something that even meteorologists love and support. And so what that is planes flying at much lower altitudes into big cumulus clouds to inject silver iodide to make those clouds produce rain. And these are private companies that are hired by, perhaps they're hired by a farmer who says, I need more rain over my crops. And so he might hire a company to come in and do this. And so what they're doing is altering our weather. And so playing God really is what they're doing. And you want to talk about
it's so
weather,
dangerous.
the changes in our weather it's because our weather is being manipulated. It's being changed by these people. Then there's a third form that we have to be aware of, and that's electromagnetic radiation. And the more and more technology we get, a lot of people associate that with HAARP. Some people have heard the word HAARP, which is HAARP is called High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program in Alaska. And basically it's an ionospheric heater, and it heats the ionosphere. It even punches a hole in the ionosphere, and temporarily.
Wow.
To heat the ionosphere out of research. Now, a lot of the things that they do, they use the word research to kind of get away with it, right? We're just researching. But I don't know about you, but I think sending microwaves into the ionosphere and blowing a hole in it, not good for us, okay? It's going to manipulate weather patterns. It's going to stall out hurricanes. It's going to move hurricanes and perhaps stall them out over North Carolina and places like that. So they don't want to take credit for that whenever those things happen. The cloud seeders say, well, it's not really effective. Well, then what are you doing it for? When they do these things, there has to be an effect, right? There's a cause and effect.
Oh, for sure.
And it's happening. We have to stop this, or else we're just not going to have a future here. So that's what we're all about.
One of the things that I contest, and people are like, why are you on a program that focuses on Christ-centered themes and family and truth? Why are you talking about geoengineering? Well, it's because God has given us life. He has work for us to do.
Right.
Yes.
And there are people like, I cannot eat your fast food if I don't want to destroy my liver.
Yeah.
I cannot eat your yellow dye number 7 if I don't want to destroy my thyroid, whatever, right? But unless we fight this thing, I can't do is stop what lands from the sky on my soil, in my children. Your body is a magnet. It's picking up all kinds of toxicity. Do you see what I'm saying? So,
Yes.
So absolutely, God has work for us to do.
Yeah.
We need to push back on this and get it done, because otherwise our bodies, this to me, if you want to know, and I'm fine if you want to Photoshop a screenshot of this episode with a giant tinfoil hat on Joe Horn and call me a conspiracy theorist. To me, this is the greatest existential threat that our generation faces. And you can loop that on video forever. I just said, to me, geoengineering is the greatest existential threat that we face as a generation.
Yeah.
Michael, for people watching this, though, and they're like, man, these guys are resonating, but I would want some evidence of where this has been documented. Are there documented cases of what people are actually testing? You know, this landed in the soil. I've watched podcasts recently with some doctors that we're actually going to invite to come on the program and talk about it again here. The metabolic effects of aluminum build up inside of the cells of the body.
Right.
Yeah.
Obviously, aluminum, where is that coming from? Well, I would contest the skies.
Yes.
Okay. When you're talking about this, if somebody's out there thinking, okay, these guys are talking about science fiction, what other forms of weather modification might exist, and where has this been documented?
Well, I think we'd have to go back to who's behind it. I think that would be the first thing to do if you're going to look into history. Where did it begin? And really began long before we can ever imagine. It started back in 1962, and probably before that, but with Lyndon Baines Johnson, who has a famous video where he talks about, he's at Texas State University, and he's talking about building a weather satellite. You may have seen this video. And he says the word, one who controls the weather controls the world. And the way he said it in such a nefarious way, he meant that. And he actually authorized the use of weather warfare in Vietnam called Operation Popeye. And so that's where it began. There's a couple of professors. Of course, there's always a mad scientist behind it. But Roger Revelle in 1965, he drafted a report that discussed the role of solar geoengineering to offset climate change back in the 1960s.
Wow.
And then Thomas Schnelling back in 1980. But most recently, if you want to look at geoengineering, you're going to find the name Dr. David Keith. And he's the leading scientist behind solar geoengineering. He wrote a book called The Case for Climate Engineering. And so he proposes to put sulfur dioxide by the tons into the stratosphere. He came on he's been doing the rounds on talk shows, believe it or not. He was actually on the Stephen Colbert show about 10 years ago, I want to say,
Oh, wow.
where he actually admits that yes, this is going to cost tens of thousands of lives. So people are going to die. He says that like without flinching. There's
Right.
other
I've
videos
seen
of
the
him
video.
saying the
Yes.
same thing. And he says, it's serious. Really? It is serious. And he says, well, we're hoping that it'll save more lives than that. So these people, they're playing with our future. It's just a globalist cabal type of mentality of elites. We understand things from a biblical perspective.
Right.
We have a biblical lens. We understand he's in control. And we also understand that these types of things are supposed to be happening in the latter days,
Your
right?
body work the way God designed it to.
NASA-inspired technology is this red light, and you can get it in all sorts of places. I mean, the Hollywood people use this all the time, right? The fancy folks, athletes, Hollywood folks. It shuts down joint pain, melts inches off your waistline, recharges your energy to the sun. $8,000. What kind of a price are we talking here today?
It's literally with the code today, it's like $597.
But, these people don't believe in God. They think they are God, and they're going to control things. So another scientist is named Ken Caldera, and he works directly for Bill Gates. And we've heard a lot of Bill Gates coming out talking about solar geoengineering. And so Ken Caldera is a senior scientist at Gates Ventures. And so there's a lot of other scientists that are behind this, but those are the two main ones that we want to start with.
So, Michael, you're describing this cabal that's playing God to assume that they know better than he does how to manage our weather to what? Save the human species from the harmful rays of the sun.
Yeah.
When you say cabal, are you being generic for the government?
No, I'm talking about globalist people that are beyond our government. Now, it includes our government, but because our governments, when they go to these elites and they go to the Paris Climate Treaties and they go to the World Economic Forums and they meet on a global level, they have global ideas, that don't really, and this whole climate change agenda is powerful. You think that COVID lockdowns was bad? Wait till you see climate lockdowns, where they just lock you down for no good reason other than to say, well, we're telling you that your carbon footprint is too much today and you need to stay home and not drive your car, for example.
Oh,
And I
wow.
would think, 10 years ago, people would have said, okay, that's it, lock him up.
Yeah.
Not so much now.
Yeah.
When we've seen overreach before.
That's right.
People are starting to sober up to the idea that the people running this puppet
Yeah.
show are capable of, I think that was just a warm-up to see what people would tolerate. But go ahead.
So is our government involved, though? That's one of the questions that a lot of people ask. And the answer is absolutely yes. Has been since LBJ. But even recently, in the Biden White House in 2023, they came up with the congressionally mandated research plan for solar radiation modification. It's a report that you can actually pull up on bidenwhitehouse.archives.gov and find that information there. And it even shows a picture of the type of jets that they will use to do this, okay? And so another thing, we saw the acting director at the time, CIA director, John Brennan, in 2016 gave a speech to the Council on Foreign Relations where he said he likes to see stratospheric aerosol injection as an example of geoengineering technologies that could help reverse the warming effects of global climate change. And that's a video you can pull up as well. And most recently, now that we have the Trump administration in, we have a lot of hope, right? Lee Zeldin is the director of the EPA, right? He actually he's been doing his rounds as well. And he actually acknowledges that geoengineering is real. And so he's responding because people are absolutely livid. They're reaching out. That's why we have so many followers, because people are very nervous about this. They want something to be done.
Yeah.
And so as a result of the outcry, even got all the way up to President Trump, where he's saying, hey, Lee, talk to them about this. This is the EPA, right? And he says, yes, solar geoengineering is real. And he even says solar radiation modification. He says stratospheric aerosol injection, and it's being funded by the government.
Wow.
And now he's not saying it as though he supports it. It's actually quite the opposite.
It's still an admission, though,
It's an
regardless of his
admission.
motive.
Is he
right.
going to do anything about it? That's the
Right.
thing. And I can show you there's a list of 14 federal agencies, I won't go through them all, but who are funded. So there's a flow of millions of dollars that is going through different agencies, of course, like the EPA, like NASA, like the Department of Agriculture, Department of Defense, that are funded with this climate change agenda in mind.
Michael, I'd love for you to go into chemtrails. Now, is this just aircraft turning on and off nozzles? Because when I think chemtrails, I picture jets up there with these big nozzles and they're spraying things, but they're hiding it from us and not telling us.
See, that's where we get the conspiracy theory title, right?
Right.
And actually, that's what got me into this in the first place. And that's what most people, the very vast majority, they're concerned about these trails in the sky. And so that's what got me involved in this. Now, is that actually nozzles spraying, flying over our properties? What I found, I started doing my own research. Now, I've learned that, if you're looking to find it, that's what they want you to believe. That's what certain people want you to believe. But when I looked up, I got my own flight tracker. Okay, very simple. Everybody can get your own flight tracker. A lot of them's free, and some of them you can pay for. But simple, you can literally track every flight, including military flights, over your property, no matter or wherever you are, in real time. And so that's where I started to find out. Wait a minute, every trail that I tracked during that time frame, which is a long time period, okay? So what I found is that these are not just unmarked planes. They're not military planes by and large. They're actually commercial aircraft.
Really?
Passenger planes for the most part. And all the major carriers, okay? So are they spraying with a nozzle? I think that's preposterous. I think it's not even fathomable that they would do something like that. So I had to do some research to find out what is going on. Why? Because there's something different these days than there was when I was a kid. And I don't care how many scientists or meteorologists will say it's normal, it's just water vapor. That's not the case. What we're seeing is something that is very concerning. So what is it? Okay. So we have to go back to why do we see these trails sometimes? Because the same planes are flying over your house every day.
That is the question of the day.
Right.
Why do you see them one day, but the next day you don't? Okay.
Right.
Why would I always hear these pilots and meteorologists chime in on our social media saying it's the conditions. It's the conditions. And they say a few not so nice words to us. And so I started looking at that. Well, nobody would say, what are the conditions? Okay. So I found out. So for decades, there's something called the Schmidt-Appelman criteria, which is something that all the way goes back from the military, who would track their own contrails, okay? Because if you're a military and you're flying over Iraq or wherever, you don't want a contrail, persistent contrail, to basically lead to your location.
That's right.
So they back then, they would, for decades, they've been rerouting their planes through different saturated regions in the sky to make sure that they don't spray trails. Okay.
Wow.
So there is such a thing as conditions, and that, let me just say what it is. It's called ISSRs. Okay. So ice supersaturated regions. So that's when you either see them or you don't. Okay. So let's say today we see planes that are spraying. Okay. It looks like they're spraying. I say it's spraying, but it's because if you look up the conditions are exactly correct at that altitude for contrails to become reality. Basically, so here's the thing. Are these normal water vapor? It's not because, okay, they didn't persist the way that they do now all over and completely turn into clouds, which was what they call cirrus clouds. The meteorologists will call them. Cirrus clouds are man-made, okay? And our skies are full of them.
Yeah.
So what happens is when these planes, first of all, the planes, if you go back to what happened in 1996, they changed from gasoline to kerosene, okay? And kerosene's a little bit more like diesel fuel. And the EPA does not regulate as much. They don't regulate any sulfur output like they do diesel trucks, for example. Diesel trucks are required to have 15 parts per million maximum.
Right. And
planes have zero regulations, and their output is about 3,000 parts per million.
Wow.
So the kerosene form of fuel, which JP8 is one that you're familiar with.
Yeah.
When JP8 fuel came out in the 1996 time, all NATO countries decided that they were going to go to this JP8 fuel for military planes, okay? And I've got a chart here that shows how substantially increased the levels of metals are in those fuels. For example, you went from almost nothing to 9,360 parts per million aluminum in the fuel, okay? And then there's a list of all these other ones. So you got aluminum, barium, strontium, all these things that you hear about with stratospheric aerosol injections, right? And major levels of sulfur dioxide or sulfuric acid, okay? So what we've seen is a marked increase in major levels of pollution coming out of engine exhaust, major levels. Like if they didn't even fly a plane for a week or for 2 years, it would still be up there. Basically these transportation byways in our troposphere and our stratosphere are saturated with these metals. That's why when we get rain samples, we get aluminum in our rain samples, okay? So what happens is for a vapor, to come out of a plane and produce a cloud, it has to have a seed. Okay, it can't just turn into an ice crystal just because of the conditions. It has to seed onto something, and what it is these nanoparticulates of aluminum, barium, strontium, titanium, and major levels of sulfur dioxide. Because it's the sky is saturated, and that's especially if it's coming right out of the engine, and they go through these ice supersaturated regions. That's the formula that creates chemtrails.
Oh, wow.
They don't call them chemtrails, and if you say the word chemtrail, you'll get canceled in those areas. That is what's happening. Now, you have a little bit of example or understanding of JP8 fuel.
I do. That's right, Michael. When we were talking, I was in the military, and I worked on aircraft, and we often were exposed to JP8. It was the fumes, you're working in the bladder, the fuel cell, and we would have to get blood tests every year to check our heavy metals, just in case we had too much exposure.
Yeah. So that happened in 1996. So go back, that's about 30 years. So that's about the time frame when we started seeing, it's increasingly getting worse and worse, okay?
Michael, with just a couple of minutes left on the clock, one of the things we got to do, or we would be remiss in this broadcast today, is for the viewer out there that wants to know, okay, this is something rather more than a conspiracy, I would like to get involved. For one thing, they can visit your website to follow your model, and this doesn't care what state you're in.
Yes.
So why don't you share with people where you're doing this great work, how fast the explosive growth, by the way, of Missouri Clean Skies, this group that you've put together is. And I would say that the fast explosion in popularity is a side effect of the fact that people are talking about this, and they are wanting to get engaged, but they're looking for leaders. Yeah. It's a difficult, tricky navigate, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a difficult, tricky navigate. And so that's why we have people like Michael Hogan.
Yeah.
Where can people learn more? How do they get started?
So we have a website, mocleanskies.org, okay? We have a resources page, and it is just cram-packed full of good information, truth. We're only concerned with truth. We don't want conspiracy theory. There are people on the side that say, you're crazy, it's not, it's not fuel emissions. They won't admit to it, even though it's factual. And so we only want to follow. I believed before that it was spraying out of nozzles as well. But when I changed over, I get a lot of people saying, you've sold out, who paid you off? Things like that. But we just have to stick with the truth.
That's right.
Because we're never going to stop this if we don't.
Absolutely.
So what we're doing to stop geoengineering is we're working on the Senate and in the House to ban it in the state of Missouri. We're also working to ban it in all 50 states, okay? But we also have to go to the EPA and the FAA because they're the ones, states cannot control what's going in the fuels. Right. And states cannot control where the planes are flying through these saturated regions. And so we're going to go after that in order to stop the chemtrails. Right. That's the resource we need to go after.
Ladies and gentlemen, I can tell you, I know Michael Hogan, he's doing this sacrificially. He had a great life. Didn't need to take this thing on and start fighting it, and you spent a lot of time working on this. So we're so grateful for you. Unfortunately, we're all out of time, but we will be back next week with Senator Mike Moon right here in Missouri, and again, Michael Hogan, to continue this conversation. God wants you well. He wants the skies clean. He gave us a clean earth. We're ruining it, and we need to do something about it. For everybody here in studio, everybody here on panel, Michael, thank you so much for being here today. I'm Joe Artis Horn. Keep your eyes on the prize, which is Jesus Christ. We'll be back. So my primary goal in launching the new program, Life TV Now, is to focus on discussions that I believe are part of the narrative that are holding people hostage. We'll tackle serious topics like vaccine recovery, parasite detoxes, fighting back against deadly malevolent disease, autoimmunity, geoengineering, chemtrails, cloud seeding, and human trafficking. But we're also going to be focusing on celebrating the joy of family, nature, God's medicine, and the freedom that he offers you when you know where to look for it. Now, I want to tell you where you can watch Life TV Now. Go straight to the App Store and download the Skywatch Television mobile app. It's absolutely free.
And also, we want to make sure people know you get it on a big screen, as with all the other Skywatch TV video content. Go to the App Store for your set-top box or smart TV, and you can add the Skywatch TV channel there and get all of our video content right on your big screen.
Elitist media deceives, but Faith and Freedom TV amplifies truth. Our world-leading platform delivers news, teachings, worship, movies, and music rooted in biblical values and constitutional patriotism, inspiring faith and liberty. We inspire, equip, and amplify Christian patriots to share powerful stories of faith, family, and freedom. With live events, thousands of on-demand videos, and access on Roku, FireTV, Apple TV, Android, and iOS, we're transforming culture globally for God and country. New content is coming to ignite faith. Break free from deception 24/7. Playing now at faithandfreedom.live.
Issue a warning to the listeners. The last time Rob was here with his red light therapy, we sold out during the program.
It really helps your body in dramatic ways, not only in the skin surface level, but it goes in deep. It's got near infrared as well, so it goes in deep into the body and helps the mitochondrial process work more effectively. And so got these amazing mats that compare with these $8,000 panels. These mats are just as effective. Yeah, so that's what's so awesome about it, is literally with the code today, it's like $597, right? So we sell them typically for $1,200, but we've have as our normal offer on the website is like $697 is our Valentine's Day deal. But we want to do something special for your audience.
You only have 40 of these available because production is apparently a little slow. So demand is high. The therapy is remarkable. It's a total body reset.
Constantly exhausted and stressed? Introducing Exodus, the biblical supplement with 7 divine ingredients for real wellness, featuring organic barley grass and wheatgrass, aloe, saffron, cumin, frankincense, and myrrh. Plus a mineral blend that generates healing molecular hydrogen. Experience more energy, less inflammation, and enhanced performance. Exodus is your path to total rejuvenation. Try risk-free with our 60-day guarantee.
Exit the old you at exodusfaith.com.
Market volatility soars as trade wars, government debt, and global chaos shake the economy. But for centuries, gold and silver have been trusted safe haven assets. Overpriced coins may lose value. Call Kirk Elliott Precious Metals to invest in low-cost 100% liquid bullion. Kirk educates you, charges no commission when you sell, and helps you seize this historic bull market. Protect your wealth now with KEPM at 720-605-3900 or go to kepm.com/B2T.